one stock which has really perked up, I think, post-listing, and Belrise, if we can bring up the 2-month chart, if you will. Today is up about 2%, 140. If bring up the 2-month chart for Belrise, was sub 100 about a month and a half ago. This is not looking right. I think we'll change that. But it's actually gained since the issue price. It's up about 56%. Now it's in spotlight today as well. Potential tailwinds coming in from the upcoming GST rationalization. Before we talk to the management, let's bring in Puneet for a quick deep dive into the company's business, recent moves, and what's driving investor interest. Puneet.
Well, thank you for that. So there are 3 key triggers which could positively impact Belrise in the near term. The first one, they've actually come out with a wholly owned subsidiary which will be in the defense and the aerospace business. Now, this is just a wholly owned subsidiary. We're still awaiting details of that, but would love to get some perspective from the management of the objectives of having this now this subsidiary in the defense and the aerospace business, and which components would they be targeting. The second key aspect is, of course, on GST rationalization. 60% of Belrise revenue come from the two-wheeler space. That is going to get positively impacted from the entry-level motorcycles are going to be impacted if there's a GST cut from 28 to 18%. And all the news reports that we have from our colleague Shrimi as well indicate that that cut could be coming on September 3rd and on September 4th. Belrise has one of the key clients in the two-wheeler OEM space, and that could benefit the entry-level motorcycle segment as well. And finally, the third key aspect is the company is looking to have growth areas such as EVs as well as the exports. Exports roughly contribute 5 to 6%, but they have aspirations of growth of a much higher growth compared to the domestic market here. And for electric vehicles, we have seen that continuous integration there. Belrise has a lot of products that they supply to Bajaj, and that is one of the key players in the EV space. So all these factors contributing well, but for me specifically, the most interesting aspect was their wholly owned subsidiary which they've come in the defense segment, a new segment, a growth segment that a lot of auto companies as well as EMS companies are starting to look at. So those will be some of the key aspects I'll be looking at from this conversation.
Okay. In fact, let's begin with that context of what GST means for this company, the GST cuts that are coming mean for this company. Sumedh Badve is joining us, promoter of Belrise Industries. Thank you so much for joining us, and great to have you on, Mr. Badve, on NDTV Profit this morning. Let's just talk about the GST impact first, because that's top of mind right now. What is the kind of benefit you see accruing to you?
So it is, obviously the benefit would be in terms of rate reduction, very lucrative to the customers, the OEMs, the overall price obviously goes down, which is a very positive demand booster. And it's great for automotive, great for autos. It's a meaningful reduction, and we believe that it'll drive growth going forward. Obviously, if you look at the two-wheeler industry, we had a peak in the pre-COVID FY 19-20-ish, and since COVID, this peak hasn't still been reached. I think this could be a great turning point, with the industry now moving towards coming very close to that peak and going forward, increasing even further in terms of the growth. So that's
any kind of margin improvement you see as a result of the kind of demand that's coming in, GST, etc. What is the outlook on margins coming in? Because good set of numbers in Q1, but a slight downtick on margins.
I don't think it is. So this is it'll drive volume. It'll drive better demand. With respect to margin, we're largely in. If you compare to the previous year, we're largely in sync. There's not been much change in our margins. I think that will continue to be stable.
Sumedh, first a bookkeeping question, if I can, before we get to the bigger picture. Because you've repaid so much of the debt through the IPO proceeds, would it be suffice to say that your bottom line performance YOY, right, the growth, will look materially better than what your operational metrics or EBITDA growth or sales growth could look at, because you save on that interest cost? Or is there something I'm missing here?
No, you're absolutely on point. That's perfectly correct. From a PAT perspective, it'll automatically translate to better bottom line because we have repaid a significant portion of our debt. It was a completely fresh issue. We raised 2150 crores, 2150 crores from the IPO. It was a full fresh issue. 75% of that was going towards debt repayment, which comes to about approximately 1600 crores, which we've already repaid, and the balance is towards general corporate purposes. So that will translate to a meaningful impact on the bottom line. So you're perfectly right on that.
And are you particularly happy with all the recent developments, especially two of them, right? So there are three, right? One is the tariffs and whether that has an impact on exports to that region. But two, the fact that GST cuts, as Tamanna probably spoke to you about, and if that brings about an uptick in sales. But three also, in one of the con calls, you had mentioned about rare earth shortages could have an impact. But if indeed the India-China relationships, it improves, and if there is a material positives on the rare earth availability, is that something that could help you? Are you already seeing signs of those pressures easing? Because I think Bajaj Auto was on record saying that those rare earth pressures are easing.
Right. I won't be able to comment on any customers, but
no, they were saying for them. I'm wondering if you are experiencing the same thing.
Sure. Fair question. Let's go point by point. With number one, with respect to tariffs, we don't have any meaningful exports to the US, so we're largely shielded from the tariffs, which is a positive. We do export to Europe, to certain premium four-wheeler manufacturers. That is actually looking positive. We largely the UK, but otherwise also overall to the UK, to Europe. The UK FTA, the India-UK FTA is actually very positive in that sense. With respect to our indirect exports through the OEMs that we work with, we have exposure to South America, to Europe, Africa, Southeast Asia, the larger Asian countries. That demand continues to be robust. That was point number one. Point number two, I think, was with respect to GST, which you asked. That obviously, like I also mentioned, very, very positive in terms of driving demand and growth. And we see that there is a meaningful increase in terms of, or at least within the larger public, there's very solid positive environment, especially given the festive season that we're currently in. And number three, I think your question was around, can you repeat what number three was?
Issue, Sumedh. I mean, is that an issue for you as well, for the businesses that you are or may enter in?
So rare earth, actually, given the current positive talks that are currently happening between India and China, that actually will make things significantly easier and will drive EVs further. That is our take from the happenings as they are undergoing right now.
Okay. Just if you're wondering what are the visuals that you're seeing on screen, you're seeing the Prime Minister at the Semicon event in New Delhi. We'll hear from him in just a bit. Those are the opening shots. We'll just put the amp up for a second if we can. That's the inauguration of the function.
प्रोजेक्ट्स की टेस्ट चिप्स और 28 चिप्स जिन्हें छात्रों ने चिप्स टू स्टार्टअप प्रोग्राम के तहत तैयार किया है। इनका फैब्रिकेशन और पैकेजिंग मोहाली के सेमीकंडक्टर हब में तैयार किया गया है। आपका आभार माननीय मंत्री जी। आदरणीय अतिथिगण, देश तकनीक की नई क्रांति का सूत्रपात कर रहा है।
Okay, so that was, of course, the opening sort of ceremony, and Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav presenting the Prime Minister with a Made in India Semicon is from what I could see. And we'll get you more on that as well, and maybe a piece from our colleague Rishabh Bhatnagar, who's covering the event. But Sumedh, I wanted to come to you on the aerospace foray that you've announced recently. And I thought that was very interesting because you're relatively a recently listed company. So, you know, we've been tracking you relatively more recently, and you have a good hold in the OEM space. What is this aerospace idea? What do you want to do there with Belrise Defense and Aerospace?
Absolutely. Fair point. You've been tracking us fairly recently, but we've been working on the aerospace and defense vertical for about upwards of 2 years now. We've recently incorporated a wholly owned subsidiary, and obviously it's a segment which has a long gestation period. There is significant approvals that are required in it, and there's that engagement that needs to happen in the industry. We've been working on that for the past couple of years, largely utilizing our core expertise of being an engineering and process-driven company. We believe there is a meaningful contribution we can do in the adjacent or allied industries, namely which is aerospace and defense. And happy to share with you, I've actually received a few initial orders in that space, 2 from global aerospace and defense OEMs and 1 from a Israeli aerospace and defense company, which will be exporting actually from India. So
the size of those orders? Thank you for sharing that, Sumedh. What are the size of that order?
Those are very very small orders. They're just the beginning. So it is I think more than the quantum or the magnitude of that order. It's about the foray and entry into that space, and we believe we can grow that in the coming
So just give us those details again if you can. An Israeli company, and what is the other one, and what is the nature? Whatever you can share, of course.
Sure. Largely, there are 2 global aerospace and defense players who we have developed certain parts for, and we'll be supplying for them.
Thank you. We'll let you go at that. Thank you so much for that, Sumedh. Belrise Industries in focus. There's GST impact. There's a defense foray. Two-wheelers are in focus. But, I mean, look at the markets meanwhile.